Welcome back, guys. I'm Rayman from Respawn Games, and just in time for Monster Hunter Wilds, I thought I'd bring you my top 10 favorite monsters in all of the whole Monster Hunter franchise. Mainly from Monster Hunter World, though, I'll say, but they have made appearances in other Monster Hunter games. Now, the Monster Hunter franchise has been one of my favorite franchises in gaming history. I started off on the very first Monster Hunter game, I think on PSP, and then I moved on to Monster Hunter Freedom Unite 2, and then I sort of fell in love with Monster Hunter again in Monster Hunter World. I think it was just a lot more sort of accessible, I felt it was it was needed. I think it was so fun, and probably goes down as one of my favourite games of all time. So with Monster Hunter Wilds on the horizon, I thought, what better way to bring that in than to give you guys my top 10 favourite monsters. So I wouldn't expect anything like sort of Fatalis or anything like that, because I never made it quite that far in the game. I sort of got Iceborne, but with my two kids, I didn't manage to have the time to get to that point. So maybe I will in the future. It's on my list, but you still can expect to see some other epic monsters on there that you may expect. Some might actually surprise you. So without further ado, guys, please enjoy my video of my top 10 favourite monsters in the whole Monster Hunter franchise. Cheers, guys. Okay, guys, kicking us off with our number 10 is the Angina. And I'm not going to talk about sort of subspecies or anything like that in this video, because I'm going to sort of class them all as one, so I'm not going to be talking about like a Azure Rathalos or a Silver Rathalos or anything like that. It would just be normal Rathalos, normal Rathian, normal Angina, that sort of thing. So let's talk about the Angina then. To be honest, it's probably the first difficult monster in the game, I would say, because up until then I think you're dealing with the Great Jagras, the Pookie Pookie. Pookie Pookie could be quite difficult, but I think Anjanath is the first really difficult aggressive fight. I mean, it's super aggressive, so many different fire attacks, aggressive charging, and it's also resistant to fire. But its legs can be broken, its head can be broken, and the tail can be chopped off. So it's got a lot of weak points, so you can't really go wrong in this fight. So what I would say is you make sure you equip fire resistant armor in this, and make sure if you do want to sort of look for its weakest element, then make sure you have a water based weapon. It's probably the best way to fight it. But I found it super challenging the first time I saw it, because I love the aesthetic of it. It reminds me of a T-Rex, and I love T-Rexes. So yeah, this fight's super cool, super fun to do, and you'll have a really good time doing it. So that is my number 10, guys. Alright, guys, coming in at number 9, we have the Diablos and all its other variants. Like I said, I'm not going to include all the other variants because there's too many to name, but I do love the Black Diablos. I've got a bit of a soft spot for Diablos because I've probably fought one in every single Monster Hunter game I've played, and I even use it as like sort of practice on the actual mobile game Monster Hunter now as well, because that's something I enjoy, and I'd highly recommend you guys play it if you like that sort of thing. I would argue it's probably still early to mid game when you fight a Diablos, depending on the game, depending on which Monster Hunter game you play. Obviously, this one is like the sort of you could call it like a final boss of the Wildspire Wastes. At this point in the game, anyway, it's like the last monster you would fight before you move on to the Coral Highlands. So once you've beat Diablos, you can move on. And let's talk about its aesthetics. Obviously, what stands out are its massive horns. Weird though, because obviously Monoblos has one. You'd think mono meaning one, duo meaning two. It'd be called duoblos, but I think Diablos sounds a lot better personally. So I get why. I completely understand why. I mean, I think pretty sure Diablos means devil, doesn't it? Which, it is. I think it's like a horned devil, isn't it? So it sounds really cool as well. I know, I'm not complaining. So it does an absolute range of attacks, like the charge attacks, the quick like turn to hit you on the other side, tail attack, and the worst of all is the burrowing attack. That one's horrendous. I mean, there is obviously there's ways of doing it, of beating it in that way. So avoid the charge attacks, as they do crazy damage. And what I would recommend is a lot of well-timed rolls, and just try and anticipate its move set. Like, if you see it at a distance about a charge, just run out of the way and try and jump at the last minute, because obviously if you jump at the last minute, it does that sort of animation where you jump, you won't take any damage. So make sure you keep running. And obviously to sort of avoid when it goes underground, you can use a sonic bomb on it, which is really, really useful, and that'll bring it straight up and keep it vulnerable. So you can also beat it as well with ice-based weapons and water-based weapons, but mainly ice. And it's quite susceptible to paralysis and then poison, but mainly paralysis. So that's my number 9, guys. Next on our list, we have the majestic Corinne sitting at number 8. Now, I absolutely love the Corinne. Think elegant but deadly. And it's funny because it looks so sort of cute and innocent, like butter wouldn't melt, and when it sort of hops around, and bam, it unleashes the most lethal of lightning attacks. I hate it, especially when it makes you sort of susceptible to extra lightning damage as well. That's a horrendous sort of move it does. And one thing I didn't know, it was actually that it's also known as the smallest elder dragon in the game. But the thing is, you tend to fight it a lot earlier on than other elder dragons. So yeah, it's a real tough fight as well, because the amount of lightning damage. So obviously the main thing you want to do here is have sort of heavy lightning resistant armor, and I wouldn't say it has, like, apart from Elder Seal, which you get later on in the game, it has like a 3-star weakness to fire, but it's not like it's not something. I never used the fire-based weapons for it, but I think you're more than sort of. Corinne actually appears in Asian cultures a lot, and seeing as its sort of Monster Hunter is actually Japanese, that makes a lot of sense. In Chinese, it's actually the symbol of peace and good fortune. Ironic that, really. As I mentioned above, it's known for its devastating lightning attacks, which can cause substantial damage, and it can sort of attack from any sort of range as well. So, no one's really safe. I'm looking at you, bow users. But the weakest point of it is its horn. Obviously, that's where all the sort of the lightning attacks come from, and it doesn't really have high defense. So I suppose any weapon really works on it, but the horn is obviously its weakest point, and see if you can break it if you can. I would recommend either putting it to sleep or using large barrel bombs on it. So guys, that is my number 8, Corinne. Okay guys, coming in at number 7, it's the poster boy himself, the king of the sky, it's the Rathalos. And let me say, I absolutely love this guy. I fought a Rathalos on every Monster Hunter game I can think of, and every fight's always epic. Like, it's such a fun fight. It's fast, it's aggressive, fiery, and then in some cases in Monster Hunter World, you get a Rathian join you, which adds a bit of spice to the fight. And yeah, really tough, as you can see in this clip, struggling with both of them. And the fact that it's in the air all the time as well is an absolute nightmare. So if you haven't got any flash bombs, it's a very difficult fight. But if you can get it on the floor, you can probably make quite light work of it. So I wouldn't say it's like the toughest fight, but like I said, you get it on the floor, it's a lot easier. One thing about Rathalos is obviously deals a lot of fire damage, spins with the tail. I said, you really have to try and avoid the spinning of the tail. The fire damage as well. It's just, you just keep running, and you will avoid all the fire damage. That's the thing. What I would say is that it is weak to dragon. So again, you're probably not going to come across any dragon-like weapons until sort of later on in the game. So thunder is a decent, thunder-based weapon is decent. And its head, its wings, and tail are weak spots, so you can pretty much hit it in most places and you'll be okay. It's, particular things like sleep, paralysis, stun, poison, and blaster are pretty effective against it as well. But obviously, it's very resistant to fire. So, yeah, it is a tough fight, but you come with flash bombs and you should be fine. Not a lot else to say on Rathalos. I mean, everyone knows what it is, what type of fight you're in for, and so that is my number 7. Coming in at number 6 on the list is another Elder Dragon, Val-Hazar. Now, I chose this guy mainly based on its appearance. I mean, look at it. It's just death, isn't it? It's incredible. Look at it. I love the appearance of it. It's oozing effluvium. Like it looks like a rotting carcass, which sort of embodies the rotten veil itself. It's such a cool place. Really, really, really cool monster. I love it. It's huge wings. It just looks like a decaying elder dragon, doesn't it? And it's so exciting to fight as well, especially like that effluvium, that the moves it uses when it shoots effluvium at you, and it just takes your health like to halfway down. It's horrendous. It actually has a like crazy move set. It has those 2 moves where it shoots effluvium out like that, so don't get caught in it like I just did. And obviously, it's got quite a few charging attacks as well. Hits you with its tail, so it's not it's not a horrendous fight considering it's an Elder Dragon, but it does have weaknesses. So, Dragon is obviously the most effective element against it, with fire coming in second. But it's also sort of weak to blast, stun, and paralysis. Obviously, the weak points being its head, stomach, and tail, similar to the Rathalos like that. But to beat it, I'd recommend you come with a lot of Null Breeze, because it will hit you with effluvium and deduct just like that, and you'll lose a lot of health from it. So guys, that concludes my number 6, Val-Hazar. Okay guys, I can finally use the monster for the number sound now. Honestly, one of the most incredible themes in all of Monster Hunter. It's just absolutely epic. The fight is epic. It looks epic. It's just so cool. And definitely one of my favourites. And it definitely deserves its place in the top 5. It of course is Basil Juice. I'm sure I pronounced that incorrectly, but I even misspelled it before this, and I was misspelling it for a very long time, so I thought it was Basil Geese, Basil Goose, Basil Juice. I have no idea. I think that's the correct pronunciation, but I'm sure it's open to interpretation. So, well, you mainly see this. I mean, I feel like you probably see it when you're attacking other monsters before you actually set out on a quest to attack it yourself, because it has a terrible, terrible habit of invading the sort of battleground where you are fighting another monster. So all it does is cause pain and destruction, and then it just flies off, leaves you to deal with everything else after probably giving you blast status. So the main thing with it is its constant aerial bombardment with blast, and it's those scales that blow up. And its other moves are things like, where it'll come down and smash into the ground and try and squash you. So again, another aerial attack. Then you also have to be careful of the biting attack and the powerful tail swipe it has. But obviously the aerial attacks are the most defending. Just what I would say is, just try your best to avoid those scales. I know it's easier said than done, because like me, you have to get close, and there you get hit constantly. And it's just so I just take a lot of potions, or mega potions more specifically. And the thing is to prevent it. The main thing is to prevent it going airborne. So you got a couple of choices. You can either break its wings, which will reduce how long it can stay airborne for, or use flash bombs to just get it straight back down, and then obviously it's going to be a bit vulnerable for you to do some powerful attacks on it. So what I would say is have an awareness of your surroundings and just keep an eye on those exploding scales. It is weak to thunder, so make sure you equip thunder-based weapons. Bear that in mind, that wings should be the focus, but head can be broken and the tail can also be cut off. So starting off, my top 5 is Basil Juice. Okay guys, coming in at number 4 is the big bad electric wolf itself, the Zinogre. Now, again, I chose this guy purely on its aesthetic. The blue-green fur, the electric, its symbiotic nature with thunderbugs as well. It looks so cool. I mean, look at it. It's just honestly, the guys behind Monster Hunter are absolute geniuses when it comes to monster design, and it looks incredible when it gets to its sort of its fully charged state. It just creates this intense, electrifying visual spectacle. Like that. It looks incredible, and when you're fighting it, it's so agile. Its electric attacks are devastating, especially when it's in its charged state. So it can also unleash its powerful attacks with its claws and its tail, and it also does a lot of charged attacks. So the key is with this guy to stay on the move, avoid getting hit with the electric strikes. I know, easier said than done. So to try and actually beat it, definitely try to interrupt its charges and not let it get to its sort of fully charged state. It is heavily susceptible to ice-based weapons, so use them to your advantage. It's also weak to blast, poison, and stun. So, and the good thing with it is pretty much everything breaks on it, poor thing. So it hits head, forelegs, back, tail, and horns. So that is my number 4, the Zinogre. Okay guys, championship rounds. With the bronze medal, it goes to Odegaron at number 3. Now, this one again, it looks incredible. I remember first going against it, I was terrified because I was a bit scared of the Rotten Veil anyway, and seeing this for the first time with all its spikes and its super sleek aesthetic, it was worrying, And then you fight it and you realise how fast and how furious it is. Pardon the pun. And it's incredibly aggressive, it's incredibly agile, and what makes it so difficult is it's the fact it's lightning quick and capable of lunging from a distance and closing the gap. It does that one move where it goes at a distance, just lunges at you and then whips its tail at you and causes bleed damage. And that's the biggest problem with this fight, is that it does cause bleed damage, which causes your health to deplete over time. The only way to get rid of it is to just sort of crouch down. So make sure you bring lots of healing items. I would say, and I think as well, I'm pretty sure it's blind as well. I'm sure I read somewhere that it was blind. But yeah, be wary of that attack as well. It kind of sort of lunges 3 times, and I think after the 3rd time you got a sort of opening to attack it. And I'd say be super alert when fighting it, because like I said, like that move there with the tail, that's the one. So focus on that, and just focus on its position, anticipate its move sets. So constantly be on the move to try and avoid those sorts of attacks. It's extremely susceptible to paralysis, so I feel like it's in a constant state of paralysis when I'm fighting it, which makes it easier for sure. Its main weakness, though, is ice-based weapons, so make sure to either use them or paralysis. And the head, the forelegs, and the back legs and tail can be broken as well, so make sure you keep that in mind when you fight it. So that's my number 3, the Odogaron. My silver medal goes to the Tigrex, one of my absolute favourite monsters of all time, and you can see why. It's so cool looking. I love the stripes, the colours, and for me, I've got a soft spot because it was. I remember when I had Monster Hunter Freedom Unite 2, and I think that one might have been. I might have played one or two of the other Monster Hunter games before that, but I remember Monster Hunter Freedom Unite 2 where I got stuck on Tigrex for so long, and I had to try and learn its moveset, and it was so difficult, and eventually I did it, and it was like one of my proudest achievements in gaming at the time, when I could beat the Tigrex by myself. And coming back to fight this one in Monster Hunter World was an absolute mammoth task. I think like the original video of Tigrex was like, I think it was over around 30 minutes in total. It was an absolute mammoth fight, and because I just didn't realise how tough it actually was. Like, obviously it's super quick. It does the spinning attack, which does crazy damage, and the one obviously you have to keep an eye out for the most is the running, the charged running attack, where it runs at you like 3 times and then it'll spin again with its tail, so you think it's over when it's actually not. So yeah, and it deals crazy damage. It's like I said, it's so aggressive. So apart from looking incredible, its moveset's incredible as well. But it does have weaknesses, as does all the other monsters. Its real weakness is thunder, so if you can get thunder-based weapons, great. But it does have a weak point on its head, its forearms, and its tail can be chopped off as well. So in my case, I just bombed the hell out of it until I could stun it, and I just kept going with that strategy, really. So yeah, when it's enraged as well, oh my gosh, you need to look out. The damage is increased more, it's quicker and more aggressive. So yeah, I really wish you guys the best of luck fighting this guy. So that is Tigrex, my number 2. And taking the golden medal, might have been obvious to some, but it was definitely my favourite, is the Nergigante, the Elder Dragon that first makes its appearance in Monster Hunter World. Now, I love everything about this fight. I love everything about the monster. It's the best. For sure, it's one of the best looking monsters on the game, and full of spikes, its horns are massive, sharp teeth, claws everywhere. It's an incredible looking monster, and I'm sure a lot of the community would agree with me. I'm pretty sure it's high up on everyone's favourite lists, and I know it might be a bit of a generic cliche answer, but I absolutely adore this monster. And yeah, I struggle to find any other monster that gives me the same sort of satisfaction when you're beating it as well. Because again, this is a bit of a poster boy for Monster World because of the amount of appearances it makes. When you're fighting Zora Magdaros as well, it's there. And again, with this monster, it's so quick, so agile, and it's got something really cool and unique about it, isn't it? With the spikes that sort of regrow over time, but they start off as like a weakness, and then over time they get sharp, or is it the other way around? I can't remember. But it's a real cool, unique sort of aspect about it. So it has high defense and high attack. So, and obviously its regenerative power is unique. It's probably its most frustrating aspect, really, because you'd be focusing on an area, and then all of a sudden you're doing next to no damage to it. So it performs a lot of violent charges, slamming hunters with its horn and its tail. And also those aerial attacks, is the one where it just sort of jumps up, sort of flies up in the air and just shoots down right across to the other end of the area is horrendous, and that just deals crazy damage. So it's incredibly erratic and aggressive. And I suppose you could even argue that it's sort of the boss, you know, in inverted commas, it's sort of the boss of the game before Xeno'jiiva, you know. I mean, because it appears all the way through the game, and it's what you're after, isn't it, for most of the game. So yeah, I always like to think of it as the sort of antagonist, you know. Obviously, with this being an Elder Dragon, you can use dragon-based elements, or with this one in particular, thunder is its biggest weakness. So especially when the spikes are white on it, and the thing with it is its horns, head, and forelegs can be broken, and its tail can actually be severed. So yeah, guys, I'm coming to a conclusion now of my favourite monster hunters. So there you have it. My absolute favourite monster in the whole Monster Hunter franchise is Nergigante. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope to see you in the next one.